I remember the day the sky looked almost too bright for what it was. The kind of afternoon that feels calm on the outside but heavy inside your chest. My father had been gone for 3 weeks, and the silence inside the house still felt wrong, like the air forgot how to move. I kept hearing the echo of his voice in little things. The squeak of the front door, the hum of the old fridge, even the creak in the hallway he used to complain about but never fixed. My brother Daniel and I were sitting in the lawyer's office waiting for the will to be read. He looked calm, too calm, sipping coffee like it was just another Monday. I sat there with my fingers tracing the edge of my jeans, trying not to shake. Our father had worked his entire life for what he built, a small construction business that turned into something solid over 30 years. 2 houses, a few rental properties, a lake cabin we loved as kids, and of course, the home we grew up in. He always said everything would be split equally. He repeated it every Thanksgiving when Mom would bring up fairness. We all believed him because Dad wasn't the kind of man who changed his word. But life, I learned that day, has a way of changing people when they're not looking. And sometimes it's not life, it's the people you thought you knew best. The lawyer, Mr. Holbrook, a man in his 60s with gray hair and the kind of glasses that never sit straight, cleared his throat and began reading. The words felt heavy, formal, but familiar. To my daughter, Emily, and my son, Daniel, I leave my estate and all holdings as outlined. My heart eased a little, hearing my name, until the next line came. Daniel Thomas Miller shall have full ownership of the Miller Construction Company and all associated assets. My breath caught. I turned to look at Daniel. He didn't even flinch, his lips pressed together, like he already knew. The lawyer kept reading, dividing smaller things, the cabin, the cars, the personal items. I was left with a small sum of money and a mention of family memorabilia. That was it. I couldn't even form words. The room felt smaller, the sound of my heartbeat louder than the lawyer's voice. When he finally looked up, I managed to whisper, "There must be a mistake." Mr. Holbrook looked uncomfortable, like he'd been expecting that. "Emily, your father revised the will 6 months ago," he said quietly. He stated that Daniel had taken full responsibility for his business and should have ownership. I couldn't process it. 6 months ago, Dad had been healthy, working, still calling me every Sunday, still promising we'd go to the cabin that summer. How could he have changed everything without telling me? Daniel finally spoke, his voice calm but sharp. "Em, you were living in Chicago. You had your own life. Dad just did what made sense." Something inside me cracked at that. Not just anger, but disbelief, betrayal. I had moved away for work, yes, but I had never stopped being his daughter, never stopped calling, never stopped caring. After the meeting ended, Daniel offered me a polite half-hug, the kind you give strangers, and said, "Dad wanted me to handle things. Don't worry, you'll be fine." Then he walked away with the lawyer, leaving me standing in that cold office holding a brown envelope that suddenly felt like proof that I no longer belonged. That night I couldn't sleep. I walked around Dad's house, the one that would now legally belong to Daniel. I looked at the photos on the wall, the childhood drawings, the birthday cards I'd made for Dad, and all I could think was, how can paper decide who a family really is? The next morning, Daniel called, his voice steady. "Em, I'm listing the main house for sale. It's too big for me. You might want to get your things this week." And that was the moment I realized I was not just left out of the will, I was being erased.